Welcome, everyone. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. We come to you every week in order to share all kinds of cool things that are happening in the world of service. We pay special attention to issues of innovation, entrepreneurship, and education. And it's our goal to find interesting people anywhere in the world in order to record them and inspire people everywhere else. And this week we have a friend of mine, someone I met almost 10 years ago and whose work inspires me. Her name is Dian Alyan, and she is the founder of Give Light. And she has a special story about how she was motivated to choose to make a difference, and I am very excited to introduce her. So everyone, welcome Dian Alyan.
Thank you so much, Rushton. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure and honor to be here and to talk to Rotary eClub Silicon Valley. I don't know actually where to start, but I guess it goes back to the time of the tsunami, and perhaps the best way to tell this story is to go through a few slides that I have put together, and it will take a few seconds. Hopefully we could get it started soon. All right, can you see the screen, Rushton?
Looks perfect.
Okay, wonderful. So I came to the States in 2000. Sorry, I made a mistake. Can we rewind this?
You're totally fine. I'd say just keep going.
Okay. So Give Light Foundation came into existence after the tsunami of 2004, and in the tsunami I lost 40 friends and relatives, and that was the most devastating time of my life. And instead of being drowned into the sorrow, I decided to do something positive and came together with some of my closest friends, and we decided to form Give Light. And the mission is to build high-quality homes and futures for global orphans. I know that poverty is not an isolated issue. It is a global issue, and from the very beginning I had this long-term vision to help orphans not just in Indonesia but on a global scale. So today we are close to helping, let's see, I lost my slide. So it started with one country, Indonesia, and helping 50 children, and now we are in 10 countries helping close to 1,000 children. And I wanted to go back to my previous slide to show you a sample of our homes. So to date we have built 5 homes. The first one to the left is in Indonesia. We have home also in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka. That's the picture you saw on your right. In Cambodia, Bangladesh, and our next project will be in Morocco. So the way we operate, we're very lean and efficient. Since day one, we actually rely on volunteers. We have, I remember from the first meeting, everybody that we needed to form a solid foundation and entity. We had a lawyer, we had an accountant, we had marketers, and we're able to form Give Light from the beginning with the solid foundation. We had no paid employees up to 8 years of operation. So if you count how much we have saved to date, today we are entering our 11th year. We have saved over $500,000 in overhead. And we're blessed that many of our donors actually work for a lot of big companies like Cisco, PayPal, IBM, and we have been able to leverage the donation and being matched with grant matching. So let's talk a little bit about our children. We had 5 graduates this year, and GPA was 3.4 and above, so we're really, really proud. We also had 3 students who accept scholarship all the way to college. and more than 50% of our children are on the honor roll. And I wanted to give a little background also. When we started Give Light, we didn't know how far we can, help them, but we know at least we want to get them through high school. And such is the blessing that we actually able now to support them all the way to college. So if you look at the next slide, you will see this is actually recent graduates. To the left is Alvin. He just finished his study at one of the oldest universities in the world, actually probably the oldest, Al-Azhar in Cairo. He got a scholarship to go to Al-Azhar. And in the middle is Fitri, who is an economist. And to the right is Nika and Mahiana, who are going to be English teachers. We are really, really proud of them. I wanted to share a little bit of our success stories just in the past year. So we had 5 children graduating this year and then another one last year. So a total of 6 children have graduated from college to date. We also won a PayPal Business Challenge. We are the first, and that involves launching a new website with a new and more modern template, and also simplifying our donation flow. I think in the time of modern age, time is very important to all of us. So the faster you process the donation, I think it will also improve engagement and hopefully increase in donation as well. And we also won a grant from Salesforce. Some of you may know that this is the largest CRM company in the world, and they have been giving us a grant that allows us to use their technology to leverage our growth. In the beginning, it's easy to manage, Excel, spreadsheets, and things like that. But as you grow and operate thousands of children and donors, we need something to help us on the back end. So we're very, very happy with that accomplishment. We also have apps being developed by pro bono engineers as a result of our PayPal cooperation. And also last year we launched 10 chapters in different cities throughout the US and also throughout the world. Really excited to start in Dubai, in New York, and Paris, and most recently in Istanbul. We are matched by more than 20 companies through grant matching. Here we had put an example, American Express, Google, Qualcomm, and if you go on our website, you'll be able to see more. Adobe, for example, came to mind, Wells Fargo, and so forth. So our plan for 2016, we want more children to graduate from college. We have at least now 15 students in high school, so hopefully in the pipeline we will move up and see them doing well in school. And our home in Aceh is the oldest one, and the youngest one we open is in Bangladesh. So there are more younger kids in some of the homes, but the one in Aceh, we're hoping that all of them, or at least most of them, if not all, will graduate from college. And I think they are motivated. They are doing well in school, and our job is to continue to motivate them and give them the resources they need to excel in their education. We also wanted to pursue grants from larger foundations. We actually had not done that. The grant that I shared earlier was mainly driven by our donors who work for these companies, and they initiate internally. But Give Light has not gone, what do you call this? Has not gone to, for example, apply grant to Melinda and Gates Foundation and Dell Foundation and so forth. So those are the things that we wanted to focus on this year. We piloted a project with MIT students to actually mentor using technology, and I think this is probably something that Rushton will be very interested in, and we can talk a little bit more later on the Q&A. But basically, to not even leave your home and be able to teach math, English, science, whatever it is that you can teach using technology, I think is going to be tremendous. So we are going to expand that this year. We are also planning to start our work in Nepal in the next few weeks to sponsor orphans in Kathmandu in partnership with a trustworthy organization on the ground. We are working in Turkey to help Syrian orphans. We are actually going to start sending and sponsoring them to go to school. And we have our sixth home in Morocco that we are planning to start construction this year and hopefully to complete by winter of 2016. And then we have an event, a major event in Santa Clara Convention Center to celebrate our 10th anniversary. And we are planning to bring together 1,000 guests that represent, different parts of the Give Light community. Our sponsors from, corporate, from individual donors, speakers, and volunteers, students. Rashtan, you attended our first one in Decathlon 10 years ago, so hopefully you'll be able to come back and bring some folks from the Rotary. Okay, so how can you help? I think is the most important question. The way to help, I think, is beyond just giving your money. I think for me, giving your time and talents probably more precious to me. So let's talk a little bit about practical ways how you can help. Right now, we have a campaign on Facebook. So for every new like on Facebook page, somebody, a friend of mine, will donate $1. Up to $5,000. So if you can just quickly go to Give Light Foundation on Facebook, like it, ask other people to like it, that will generate revenues for Give Light. We are launching a program, we call it Anchor Program, and that is to actually use your talent. If you like to speak, if you like public speaking, you can share about our work, and that will generate more awareness for Give Light. You can host an event. We do a lot of different social events and always linking it to Give Light. We do a dinner party, tea party, game night, come together with your friends, and you can give a cover charge of, let's say, $20, $30, and remember, $1 can actually feed a child for 3 meals. So every dollar you spend will actually help a child somewhere. You can go and teach in our homes. I have talked and shown you pictures of our homes. They're actually beautiful. Some of them are more beautiful than my own house. And if you cannot travel, you can start this project, Mentor Me, that I talked a little bit earlier. And then you can start your own campaign. I have a couple of friends who decided to do a campaign and help with, for example, we had this blanket campaign, and some friends decided to launch their own, and some of them raised $500, some $1,000. There are many ways, I think, to engage people, and when people know where their money goes, they tend to be responsive, and they want to be a part of it. And then I think longer term, I would like to explore ideas on how Give Light and Rotary can partner on a more strategic level. And I know that you are in many countries in the world. I think Rashtan quoted 180 countries. That's huge. And our goal in 10 years is to get to 25, maybe 30 countries and help 10,000 orphans. So I want to end with the last campaign that we did. It's called Blanket of Love. Our goal was to raise $20,000 to buy 2,000 blankets. And I'm thrilled to say that we raised over 100,000, allowing us to buy 10,000 blankets for the Syrian orphans in Turkey. And that's the reason why I went to Istanbul. I personally went door to door to deliver the blankets and also visited 5 Syrian schools. And to date, we had distributed more than 2,000 blankets. In a few weeks, a couple of more friends will travel from the US to Istanbul to deliver the other 11,000 blankets. So with that, I will end my presentation, and my last message would be to invite you to invest in the life of a child. It could be in giving an hour of your time, it could be in giving $1, but whatever you do, hopefully you will be blessed for that generosity. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dion. I'm thinking about kind of the progress of the organization, because as you mentioned, I attended that first fundraiser at the Decathlon Club here in Santa Clara, and was just so amazed at the interest in stepping forward and acting. You know, I mean, when people know the personal story, you know, they're in a much better place, I think, to understand what they can do. Speaking of people, I want to introduce who's with us on the recording. In addition to Dian Alyan, we also have our membership chair, Shags Shagrin in Walnut Creek in the East Bay.
Hello.
We also have coming to us from Nairobi, it's Sviatko Chidorov, who is also on our board. All right. And so what we want to do is we want to talk a little bit about some of the mechanics of this. As I think about kind of the work you've done, you know, I remember, you know, kind of the initial stories, and the tsunami was so unimaginably horrible, right? You know, in terms of its scope, and you are from that part of Indonesia. And so, you know, there was this thing of like there are all of these children who've lost their parents, and it was at that point that you decided to leave Procter and Gamble. Do I remember that correctly? In order to start this?
No, actually, I left corporate world a few years before that, and the reason was because I felt like although I was successful in my career, there were two things missing in my life. The first one was children, and second was sense of purpose. So that's the reason why I left. But I also knew that one day I would find my purpose, and I know that going to corporate world was not it. But I also know that staying at home and just doing nothing was not for me either. So I think, you know, the tsunami happened at the time when I was a new mom. I've been blessed with two children, and my second son was 6 months at that time. So I think it's a combination of me being a new mom and watching my hometown shattered into pieces, and also knowing that there are 30,000 new orphans just in my area. It was just like so huge in terms of, you know, problems. And I thought if a person who's from that area and who's been personally affected is not compelled to do this kind of work, then who will do it?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember people speaking at the time and talking about just the, you know, the personal nature of, you know, we all have problems, but often we need to get into a mode where we can put those problems in perspective. And when we look at the larger world and we see the problems that are out there, and we think, okay, well, you know, I've got this thing over here that bothers me, but there's a kid over here who lost her parents and needs help. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like, okay, now I understand that I need to keep these things in a much better perspective. And it looks like as you've built Give Light, I mean, you've really kind of followed a good model for building a nonprofit. Yeah, there was a lot of advice in your talk about the kinds of things that were a part of it. I want to be able to bring Shags and Sviatko in on questions as well. But as you have done this, would you say that other organizations have seen the success that you've done and copied them in some way? I mean, has there been an ability to reach more orphans in those areas because other organizations have stepped in? What have you seen in that regard?
So I think in the beginning we wanted to build our own homes because I've visited many orphanages and usually they look like a shelter. And if you've seen our homes, it's actually really built with the idea of fostering a sense of family and identity and pride. And if you talk to our children, they love their homes. They feel like this is their sanctuary. And you know, I've gone to visit almost every year with my family, and we've sent a lot of volunteers. However, if you want to talk about scale, right, to get to 10,000 orphans, it's not possible for me to keep building every single year. So moving forward, I am looking to partner with more organizations, finding people on the ground who share my passion and philosophy. And that's very important because you also know a lot of horror stories out there where children are actually abused and, you know, sold into trafficking, and people actually use the idea of building an orphanage and actually take advantage of the orphans and volunteers. So, but I also know that there are a lot of good people out there, and my job is to find those good people and partner with them. And if you look at all the homes that we built, those homes are actually built on donated land. So Give Light has never paid a penny for the land. And what it does is creates a sense of ownership from the family who donated the land, and also helps you in terms of managing your home. Because I'm here in Silicon Valley, I don't see the kids every day. So unless I have people on the ground who I can trust with my life, it is not going to work. And then, so again, building is good, but it's very capital intensive. So I have to raise a lot of money. I have to work through the government, bureaucracies, and it takes a lot of time. So the model I'm thinking moving forward is to actually look for homes in different countries that are well run, where kids are loved, kids are treated with dignity, and perhaps they're lacking in resources. Then we can uplift them and instill the Give Light philosophy and standard and make them better. And with that thought, we start our first partnership in Kathmandu. I mentioned earlier we wanted to go to Nepal. I'm not going to be able to build in Nepal, but there's a home in Kathmandu where there are 50 children. And because of the earthquake, as you know, there are more orphans now in Nepal. So we are partnering, and we're bringing 10 new children to the homes, and Give Light will be sponsoring their food, their education, their clothing. And one of my closest friends actually was on the ground last week, and she's going to send some pictures about their home. And moving forward, we're going to go to different countries and see where the need the greatest and find more models like that. And I think that's how we are going to be able to scale to 10,000 orphans in 10 years.
Good deal. Well, two things come to mind as you mentioned that. I mean, there's this person I know in Bangladesh who's trying to develop, kind of resources for an orphanage. So we'll connect you that way. But we actually interviewed just 2 months ago a speaker named Tariq Fancy, who runs an organization called Rumi, and it's about getting education to people. He's actually doing a really interesting project with Syrian refugee children as well. So we'll connect you. Shags and Sviatko, if you unmute, I'll know you've got a question ready. So Sviatko, why don't we turn to you next?
Yeah. So thank you so much. This is such an inspiring story. Thank you for the great work that you're doing. My question is around so before Rushton asks it, I'm going to ask about the technology used for I think you mentioned a mentorship program. Was it MIT that you partnered with? Can you speak about that a little bit more?
Sure. So right now I have a couple of students from MIT who are teaching every weekend, and they're connecting with our homes in Sri Lanka and also another one in Aceh, Indonesia. So basically they get online and we use Skype, and they teach English. And I think longer term plan is to also teach them coding, because these are brilliant students from MIT, and they know technology, they know computer skills. But there are a lot of things you can teach over the internet. You could teach them, math, I think, and science, art, anything that will motivate the children to learn more. So I would be happy to maybe even share offline in terms of how to go about that. Is actually a very simple process. You just tell us what skill sets you have and what you want to teach, and we can start connecting you with one of our homes and get online.
It's very cool. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Awesome. Now, when I think about some of these things, actually, I see Shags is ready with a question. So, Shags, you go ahead.
Not so much a question, just a comment. Went to the website while you were speaking. Went to Facebook, put it on a like, so threw a buck into the pot.
Thank you. Thank you. You're quick. I like that.
And Shags, it looks like you muted there. So right after you were talking about that.
Sorry. So it's just amazing how you got the concept and put it all together. So I'm just kudos on that. Just
thank you. Thank you. It takes a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice of family time, but I feel that my family and I were really blessed, and we don't want to confine that blessing just to be for one family. So I hope that we can continue to grow and reach out to more orphans throughout the world.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Clearly, you're sharing the blessings. I mean, that's kind of easily understood. Now, when we look at something like building the organization and not having paid employees, I'm interested how that has been part of how you've developed. Because clearly, I mean, it's great to be able to share the message. We have no paid employees. We're able to get the money straight to the programs.
Yes.
But how do you continue to build the organization in order to do more without paid employees? I mean, have you started, kind of? Okay.
Yes, so I think, in one of the slides, perhaps it was, I was going too quickly. So up to 8 years, we didn't have employees, right? But in order for you to scale, we just actually hired our first web developer last year, and she used to work for PayPal, so that was another good connection. And then a project manager we just hired last month, because I think there is a lost opportunity for Give Light's growth, because I have been bogged down into doing every single details, operation and things like that. But if I have somebody who can manage that, then we'll be able to go and do more strategic partnership, and be more visible and pursue more opportunities. So I'm hoping this is the year, because now I have 2 people who can help me in the office. And when you have a staff, is more, I guess, reliable, because volunteers, as you know, they have different level of commitment. They say they will show up. Sometimes they don't even show up and don't even bother to say why. So I have seen all of them. I have about 100 volunteers, and some of them are amazing. I have to say, amazing people. And I think they know who they are, and I love them, and may God bless them. But I also have run into people who would sit with you for 5 hours and want to learn, and then they don't deliver. But I guess such is the nature of life, and you just stick with the people who share your passion, and continue to drive and not worry so much about what other people are doing or not doing. It's you eventually who will decide how far you want to go.
Absolutely. I think for a lot of people, they find the story compelling. That there's something in their heart that makes them say they want to help. And it's that thing of like, well, here are the different things. Where am I going to put my time?
Yes.
And they may or may not be organized to say on the front end, like, I'll need to get back to you and let you know exactly how much time and what I can do, and because obviously if volunteers always follow through on what they commit to verbally, and
Yes.
what they commit to verbally is done not because they've been pressured to do so, but because they've been inspired to do so,
Yes.
then obviously doing volunteer work would be much, much easier. But when you think about the work that you see on the ground, right?
Yes.
So like when you were in Istanbul delivering the blankets, I mean, there has to be so many people there who are involved in working with the refugees. I'm sure you saw that yourself.
Yes.
Was there something in that experience that really stood out for you? Because I think you were saying before that was your first visit to Istanbul?
Yes, definitely. So when I met, the first thing we did was we invited 100 orphans and their caretakers to go eat lunch in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, to me, amazing to see how something so little could make somebody so happy, right? Because imagine you have probably not eaten decent food, and here somebody invite you to come and sit with you in a restaurant. So that was very moving for me. And I get to meet so many kids who, 10 years and under, but some of them, they don't go to school because the single mother, the survivor, could not afford. So the Turkish government has been extremely generous. As you know, there's maybe 4 million refugees in Turkey, right? And the Turkish school are actually free for the kids to go to, but they don't speak the language. So instead, they stay at home. And this is really troublesome for me. So immediately, I wanted to come up with a plan where we actually will sponsor education of those orphans, right? And it's probably $30, $40, because the Syrian school are run by refugees, but they have to pay rent, and they have to pay the teacher salary, and it's really nothing much, maybe like 100, 150 a month. But the teacher also needs to survive, right? You're a refugee, you can't just volunteer to teach. So you have to look at this systematically, and how can you come up with a plan that will have a long-term impact? Yes, a blanket is nice, it will keep you warm, but are they going to sleep all day? No, they have to go to school, they have to be educated. So my long-term plan is, for Turkey, foster and orphans is to mobilize the community and say, how can we sponsor education for just 50, 100 orphans and grow from there?
Well, I hope that a connection with Rumi and Tarek might end up being constructive along those lines as well, and I will help, you know, with that personally, because I know you, and that's enough sometimes to say I want to help, right? So
and you can travel to Turkey and meet these kids as well, and that's the nice thing. And the other thing I was thinking for the school, once we're able to select the schools, I wanted to immediately open a computer lab. And we're in Silicon Valley. Between you and me, we can get, you know, laptops to those schools, and you can start recruiting volunteers, and they can start connecting with those children and teach them English or any other skill that is useful.
We might be able to do better using the kind of mobile devices that Rumi uses, because their goal is to come up with these kinds of tools that allow a lot of material offline for those places where not being able to get online consistently is an issue, but still lots and lots of educational material available to them, period. So I will certainly connect you on that front.
Absolutely. So, excellent.
We've probably run our time today, and I'm sorry to say so, because I love hearing you talk about how you have made so much happen for so many children, and it's inspiring. It truly is. For all of our members and guests, it's our goal every week to bring to you people who are seeing the world in new ways, seeing new possibilities, seeing needs and meeting them innovatively. And it is a pleasure to be able to share that thing as a part of Rotary International and as a part of our club, the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. If you are a visiting Rotarian, we hope that you will fill out the attendance survey that is just below this video in our meeting, and by doing so, that if you do that properly, it'll generate an email to you that you can share with your club secretary for a makeup for a missed meeting. Every Rotarian can be a 100% attendee if you can attend at any time, which you can with our club, and then also leave a comment at the bottom. So at the very bottom, we have our little discuss section, and what are your impressions of the program, of the meeting, the different pieces of it? We want to know. We want that conversation to be a part of how we develop our ideas for how we can help in different ways in communities around the world. So I'll finish by turning to Dian. Dian, if there's any kind of last comment that you'd like to share with our members and guests, we would love to just be able to pass that along as our finish for today.
Well, thank you so much. I think I will end with one thought. I don't know if you read the book The Alchemist, but there is a line there in that book that says, if you want something with all your heart, the entire universe will conspire to help you achieve it. And that's what happened to me the moment I decided to dedicate my life to this cause. Thank you so much. Have a blessed year.
Wonderful, wonderful. All right, everybody, we will see you next week.
I'm so sorry in the beginning. It was a bit difficult.